Stop for a moment and do not rush past this opening. Somewhere inside you is a quiet frustration, a sense that you are capable of far more than you have been able to express. You know you can do better, think deeper, act stronger, and move faster toward your goals, yet something invisible keeps pulling you away. You begin with intensity and end with distraction. You feel inspired, then scattered. Focus fades, discipline weakens, and time slips away. This is not a flaw in your character. It is not a lack of intelligence or ambition. It is a psychological condition created by the absence of extreme focus. Extreme focus is not a motivational slogan or a temporary burst of energy. It is a mental state, a trained condition of the mind where attention is no longer owned by impulses, emotions, or external noise. Most people live in a constant state of mental reaction. Their attention is pulled by notifications, opinions, cravings, memories, fears, and expectations. They believe they are choosing, but psychologically they are responding. The mind jumps from one stimulus to another, fragmenting energy and weakening willpower. Over time, this creates exhaustion, inconsistency, and self-doubt. Extreme focus begins when you recognize that your attention is your most valuable psychological resource, and that whoever controls it controls the direction of your life. Your life is not shaped by what you desire or what you plan. It is shaped by what your mind repeatedly pays attention to. The brain strengthens whatever it focuses on most, regardless of whether that focus is intentional or accidental. This is because the brain does not distinguish between what is important and what is repeated. It simply adapts to patterns. If your attention is repeatedly fragmented, your mind becomes shallow. If your attention is repeatedly pulled away from effort, your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Every distraction you allow trains your brain to avoid depth. Every unfinished task teaches your nervous system that quitting is acceptable. Over time, this becomes identity, not because you chose it, but because your brain learned it. Extreme focus is the deliberate interruption of this psychological decay. It is not about forcing concentration through willpower alone. Willpower is limited and unstable. Extreme focus is about restructuring your mental environment so that depth becomes natural and distraction becomes uncomfortable. When you focus deeply on one task, one thought, one goal, you are not just completing work, you are sending a signal to your brain about what matters. That signal changes neural pathways. Neurons that fire together wire together. Each period of deep focus physically reshapes your brain, strengthening attention, patience, and emotional control. You are not simply doing the work, you are becoming someone capable of sustained effort. Most people believe they lack focus, but psychologically what they lack is clarity of priority. The mind cannot commit deeply to what it does not respect. If your goals feel optional, your focus will remain weak. If your purpose feels vague, your discipline will collapse under pressure. Extreme focus begins when your objective becomes non-negotiable, when it shifts from something you want into something that must happen. Urgency sharpens attention. This is why people suddenly become focused in moments of crisis or survival. Extreme focus is learning to generate that urgency internally, without fear, by attaching meaning to effort and consequences to inaction. The human brain is an efficiency machine. It seeks to conserve energy and avoid unnecessary discomfort. When it does not perceive meaning in a task, it looks for stimulation instead. This is why boredom leads to scrolling, confusion leads to procrastination, and overwhelm leads to avoidance. Distraction is not weakness, it is the brain attempting to escape discomfort. Extreme focus replaces escape with commitment. When you stay with a task despite resistance, your brain initially protests. Thoughts become louder, discomfort increases, The urge to quit grows stronger. Most people interpret this as a sign that something is wrong. In reality, it is a sign that something important is happening. Boredom is not an enemy, it is a threshold. When stimulation is removed, the mind panics because it has become addicted to novelty. If you survive that phase and remain present, the mind begins to settle. Attention stabilizes, resistance decreases. This is when flow emerges. Flow is not motivation, it is a neurological state where the brain becomes fully aligned with the task. Time loses meaning, self-doubt quiets, performance increases. This is the state where mastery is developed and extraordinary results are produced. But flow only appears after discomfort. Extreme focus requires the courage to stay when the mind wants to escape. Extreme focus is not exciting in the beginning. It is repetitive, quiet, and often lonely. It does not provide instant rewards or social validation. This is why most people avoid it. They seek intensity without isolation, results without routine, and success without sacrifice. Psychologically, this is impossible. Depth requires separation from noise. Mastery requires repetition. Focus demands boundaries. Your attention is constantly under attack by systems designed to fragment it. Notifications, trends, opinions, and comparisons are not neutral. They are engineered to capture and monetize attention. Fragmented attention creates fragmented people, and fragmented people are easier to influence. Choosing extreme focus is an act of rebellion. It is choosing depth in a shallow world. It is deciding that your mind will not be rented by everything that demands attention. What you protect, you strengthen. If you protect your focus, it grows. If you expose it constantly, it weakens. This means extreme focus is built through boundaries, not motivation. Boundaries around your time, environment, information intake, and emotional energy. Not every thought deserves engagement. Not every emotion deserves reaction. Not every conversation deserves your presence. Extreme focus trains response instead of reaction. The distracted mind reacts automatically. The focused mind responds intentionally. Reaction is driven by impulse and emotion. Response is guided by purpose and clarity. Over time, this difference compounds into destiny. You cannot maintain extreme focus if you see it as something you occasionally practice. It must become part of who you are. Identity is more powerful than motivation. When focus becomes part of your self-image, discipline stops feeling forced. The brain seeks consistency between identity and action. When you identify as someone who finishes, who stays, who goes deep, distraction feels uncomfortable and incompletion feels unacceptable. Identity, however, is not built through affirmation. It is built through evidence. Every time you sit down to work when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for that identity. One vote is weak, but repeated votes reshape belief. Extreme focus is not one heroic moment. It is thousands of small, quiet decisions made when no one is watching. The paradox is that the more focused you become, the less motivation you need. Focus creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence reduces resistance. This is why disciplined people appear naturally driven. They are not driven by emotion. They are carried by systems and habits formed through focus. Extreme focus simplifies life. When you know what matters, decisions become easier. When decisions require less energy, mental fatigue decreases. When mental fatigue decreases, performance improves. Most people are not exhausted from working too much. They are exhausted from constantly switching attention. Every mental switch drains energy. Focus preserves it. Extreme focus is not about doing more. It is about doing fewer things with complete presence. One meaningful task done with full attention is more powerful than 10 half-focused efforts scattered across the day. Your potential is not limited by intelligence, talent, or background. It is limited by attention span. Brilliant minds fail when their focus is scattered. Ordinary minds succeed when their attention is concentrated. Focus turns effort into power. Extreme focus does not mean ignoring life. It means choosing deliberately where your attention goes. It means being present in work, present in rest, and present in silence. A scattered mind is restless and unsatisfied because it never fully arrives anywhere. A focused mind experiences depth and fulfillment because it is fully engaged with what it chooses. Purpose is the strongest psychological fuel available to the human mind. When effort is connected to purpose, pain becomes meaningful, sacrifice feels temporary, and struggle feels worthwhile.